Okay, hi. I had made some pumpkin spice fat bombs, but they didn't have a very strong pumpkin flavor because they had more fat. So I had made something else, and I never make things, the same thing twice. And it was more, I called it pumpkin fudge because it had a much stronger pumpkin flavor. So we're gonna make pumpkin fudge. This is perfect for the holidays. It reminds me of a persimmon pudding that my grandmother used to make. And I just love that. So I'm gonna make it two ways. I've got two pots. I have 4 ounces of butter in each. It's salted Kerrygold in each one of them. And so I've got it on a really low heat. And I'm going to make one with coconut oil. And this is 2/3 cup of coconut oil. And coconut oil, use, refined, unrefined, whatever you like. Coconut oil is really easy to find. Now, what isn't often as easy to find is cocoa butter. Cocoa butter, or cacao butter, raw cocoa butter. I get this from Amazon, and I'll put the link in the recipe. It is what we make chocolate from. And if you get this, make sure you buy food grade. So this is essentially white chocolate. So imagine white chocolate pumpkin fudge. It is so wonderful. But I'm making the version with coconut oil because it's easier to find. But cocoa butter is a wonderful treat. The challenge to getting this right is getting a food grade. People do use it in cosmetics that they make, but this is what it looks like. It's hard at room temperature. It melts very, very easily. I've measured out 6 ounces, which should be 2/3 of a cup, and so I'm going to put it on low heat. But this is cocoa butter. When you open it, it's going to smell yummy. You can't gnaw on it. It won't taste very good because it isn't sweetened. Like I said, make sure you get food grade, and I'll put the link to the one that I buy. The coconut oil and the the coconut oil and the butter, you're just going to put, again, I've got it on low heat, and turn it up just a pinch, and it will melt. You don't want to get this too hot. Remember that this kind of thing will separate if it's too hot. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but the cocoa butter is melting really nicely into the butter. And I use the butter just because I love the taste of the butter with pumpkin. So while this is melting, let me talk about the pumpkin. I'm using canned pumpkin. Now, 1/2 can of pumpkin is 10 total carbohydrates. So that's why I don't call this a fat bomb. I actually have called this a fudge because it is going to be just the pumpkin. I'm using 1/2 cup. It's going to add 10 total carbs. You can easily get 12 servings out of this, 12 small servings. And so you're looking already at about 1 carb per piece, although the only carbs you really put in this come from the pumpkin. So if you got 9 servings, and you would have 9 decent sized servings, I'll show you what they look like. 9 servings would still put it at about 1 carb each. So this is a 1/2 cup of pumpkin going into our coconut version. And I'm making both just to show you the difference because I was afraid some people would think, oh, cocoa butter, I don't have it. I don't want to have to order it. I live in a small rural area and sometimes it's hard to get those ingredients. So I try to be sensitive to that. Or if you've never used it before, you may think, I don't really want to spend the money on something I'm not sure I'm going to like. I do love the cocoa butter, and I've been using it for various fat bombs. And I will make another recipe with the cocoa butter coming up. I'm going to turn this up just a hair. You don't want to get it too warm. And I'm going to use my immersion blender. Once all the fats are melted, I'll be blending this up with an immersion blender. The cocoa butter, it melts really easily. It's just, it's solid. I'm going to let that go just a little bit longer before I add the pumpkin, but we'll go back and add the pumpkin. So I've got my pumpkin in. I'm also going to add a 1/3 cup of powdered sweetener. Now this is Sukrin Melis, and it's a powdered low-carb sweetener. It's erythritol based. You can use your favorite granulated sweetener and simply powder it. I'm using the very last of mine, so that was a little shy of a 1/3 cup. So I may have to go back and put some liquid sweetener just to augment. I've got to get some more of the powdered sweetener. Okay, my cocoa butter still, you can see there's that big piece and little pieces there, so it's not melting quite as quickly, although it does melt easily. So I'm going to hold off on that. So I still need to add my pumpkin there and that. Now to this, I'm also going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. So good, my vanilla extract. And I'm going to add a half teaspoon of maple extract. Love the flavor of maple with pumpkin. I'm going to add that. This was my vanilla. And I'm using a cheat sheet. This is where I weighed the cocoa butter. And I'm going to add cinnamon and cloves and pumpkin spice. Now, cinnamon, I'm going to add just a half teaspoon. Actually, that's dirty. Here we go. Don't look at my messy drawers. Okay, this is an eighth, so I'm going to do that twice. And that'll be a quarter. Do it again. 3/4 of a teaspoon. We'll stop there. Actually, what did I want to do the math? 3/8. 3/8 of a teaspoon. Cloves. Not everybody likes cloves with their pumpkin. I do. I love cloves. A little bit more. And then pumpkin pie spice. Let me get a different measure because I want to put a half teaspoon. Oh well, I can do this. I just need to put it in 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Okay, now let's give this a stir. Oh, it's perfect. I'm going to turn it down just a bit. And let's go ahead and deal with the coconut oil one. And I think we have all the ingredients in. So I'm going to use my handy dandy immersion blender and try not to make a mess. I'm actually going to take this off the heat since I'm using the immersion blender. I'm going to give it a swirl. And I was nervous. I was really going to make a mess there. I'm going to tilt the pot. Maybe you can see. But I really ideally would take it off the heat and let it cool a bit. And in fact, I'm going to blend it like this. I'll test it for sweetness, set it aside to cool, and then we'll blend it again before we pour it into our glass containers. So let's try it. I think it's sweet enough. It is buttery and amazing. Okay, I think that you can't over blend it because you really want to emulsify the fats so that they don't separate. Every now and then folks will say, I made your fat bomb recipe and it's separated. It's going to separate if you don't blend it long enough and if you don't let it cool a bit before blending. That is really yum. Okay, it reminds me of like a pumpkin butter with the maple. So let's let that cool. Man, that is tasty. David, do you want to try it? And then let's switch burners. Put this on the front and it's all melted. The cocoa butter and the butter all in there having a little party. Okay, let me add the pumpkin to it. Yum. This is a great kind of dessert to have for Thanksgiving or just the fall. I could see this being, if you were having folks over for Halloween, having your pumpkin fudge, sending some to a teacher, because you could just as easily, if the person wasn't low carb, you could just as easily put in a regular sweetener. Okay, add the pumpkin, add our 1/3 cup of Sukrin Melis or the powdered sweetener. We're adding, and I did not add salt to this, but you could. We're adding our vanilla extract, same amount, 1 teaspoon, half teaspoon of the maple extract. Love that stuff. Let's throw in our ground cloves. Man, I love to cook. And I've got the heat off of this So it should be cooling a bit. So when I put the immersion blender in, it's not so scary, although the sides to this are not deep. So that could be interesting. All right, we're gonna put 2 of our cloves, which is 1/4. We're gonna put 1, 2, 3, 4, half teaspoon of our pumpkin spice and our cinnamon. We're putting 3/8. And you can change these up. If you don't like cloves, don't put cloves. If you don't like the extra cinnamon, leave that off. Whatever kind of works for you. Now let's see if I can blend this. Okay, we've been mixing this and I've been letting it cool. I really had it too warm. Ideally, it will come back down to room temperature as you're mixing. I'm gonna pour it into a glass baking dish or a glass dish. I did the other one just like this. You can line it with parchment paper if you want to make sure it lifts out, but I just put it in a glass pan and then cut it into squares, and that way you can decide your serving size. As soon as you get it in the glass dish, put it in the fridge. Peek in on it in about 30-minute increments and see if it's separating. If it's separating, take it out, put it back in the bowl, and blend it a little bit longer with your immersion blender. This is the one made with coconut butter. David liked the one with the coconut butter better than the one with the coconut oil. I like the one with the coconut oil. I'm gonna put these in the fridge and then we'll see what they look like in about 1.5 to 2 hours. Okay, so our pumpkin fudge is ready, and this is the one made with coconut oil, and it's set up, it's still very soft, but it's set up more firmly than the one with the cocoa butter, which is kind of interesting to me. It's the opposite of what I expected, because at room temp, coconut oil is soft, but cocoa butter is not. So this, it didn't hold together well. But you can see this is easily 12 servings, so it's less than 1 total carb per serving. I have to tell you, the coconut one is my favorite. The butter really shines through with the coconut flavor, or the coconut oil one. The one with the cocoa butter is good, but it's not the same. And I'm gonna have to use a spoon to get it out. And this is why I call it pumpkin fudge. It is a much, much softer texture. This would really work well if you were doing it in probably ice molds or something. It's really good. It's very rich. So this is the pumpkin with like the white chocolate flavor. So this is very, very rich. I guess it's because of the cocoa butter, but the clove taste is stronger. This one with the coconut oil, to me, tastes very much just like pumpkin pie filling. Doesn't have the egg, doesn't have the other flavors, but it's so good. Both of them will taste sweeter, and the spices will be stronger when it cools and sets up. So make your preference. If you really love white chocolate, you don't want to miss the white chocolate pumpkin fudge. If you really like just the taste of pumpkin and butter, that really rich buttery flavor, then make the coconut oil version. I'll be honest, I don't think you could go wrong with either. I'm kind of glad my family doesn't like the pumpkin spice, because that's all for me. Now, I will portion these out. I will put them in Ziploc bags. I may use those little condiment cups you've seen me use before. And I will put them in the freezer. And that way, I don't feel compelled to eat them all this week. I'll work on them over the next couple of weeks. So if you make pumpkin fudge, whether you make the white chocolate version or the coconut oil version, I hope that you enjoy them as much as I do.